Hello and welcome to Finding Favorites. I'm your host, Leah Jones. And this is an episode that has been sitting in drafts since early October. I'm so sorry, Max. And I'm recording this on Friday, November 28th. It is Black Friday. I leave in a few hours for the trip of a lifetime. I'm headed to Finland in the hopes of seeing the Northern Lights. And I thought that I would ask Rob Abrazado, my editor, to come back on the scene and help me put this episode together while I'm traveling, because originally my plan was like, oh, it's 10 a.m. and I have to leave for the airport at 1:30. I definitely have time to edit a podcast and get that published before I leave for town. Now, have I packed yet? I have not. So I think the better idea is just to say hello to you fine listeners and then beg Rob to put this together for me. 2025 has been a very inconsistent year for the podcast, and I hope to bring it back to either a regular weekly or bi-weekly show in 2026. I love doing the podcast. I just got overwhelmed in 2025. I had emergency gallbladder surgery in March. I moved apartments in April. My medicine for my sarcoidosis wasn't really working again until late summer. So I just had a very low energy year, unfortunately. But it's ending strong. Like I said, I'm going to Finland this afternoon. And the day that this is released is the day that I am back from Finland. So the next episode you'll hear, maybe I'll sit down with Ronnie and we'll record everything that we saw and did in Finland. But also, since it's December now, when you're listening to this, how about send me your end of year clips? What were the best things you experienced in 2025? New movies, new media, new books, new music, places you went, people you spent time with, Broadway shows, off-Broadway shows. I love your video clips, so please send me audio clips. You can send them to me on WhatsApp. If you have my WhatsApp information, you can send them to me on email. My email is findingfavoritspodcast@gmail.com. And yeah, I would love to hear what you loved about 2025. And in 2026, I will be looking for people to interview. I want to go big and go closer at the same time. So I want to interview people that I know well, but have never had on the podcast. And, maybe 2026 is the year that I get the Doughboys, Jason Mantzoukas, Nicole Byer. She's coming to Chicago to film a special next year. So maybe she'll record an episode of my podcast while she's in town. I would love to bring back Candy Chat Chicago on a regular basis next year. I think that's going to have to mean find some way of funding both of those projects to keep things moving, because Rob is well worth every dollar I spend on his help, because commuting to work eats into my podcast time. That was how the podcast started in 2020, was I wasn't commuting anymore. So I got 10 hours a week back, and I poured that into learning how to edit and record and produce podcasts. And then once I added 3 days of a commute back in and a full-time job and seeing all the movies that I see, I've had a hard time finding how to fit podcasting into my life as a hobby that I love doing. So this was a fun year. You guys have stepped up and helped Cars for Ukraine, and my brother has seen some donations that are, I think, from listeners. So if you haven't donated to Cars for Ukraine, specifically the Washington Battalion, please do. My name is on the side of a car that got delivered to the army in Ukraine last week, so that's pretty neat. So I want to bring the podcast back in a bigger way in 2026. I hope that you are still listening. This interview with Max Klau was really special. Max facilitated a facilitator training that I attended a few years ago, pre-COVID, so 2018, 2019, for a program called Answering the Call from New Politics Academy. And many times, like 3 or 4 times, I got to facilitate a 5-6 week session about people trying to decide how they wanted to be civically engaged after their time in the Army or the Peace Corps or AmeriCorps finished. And it was a really powerful way to volunteer for me. And I was really grateful to meet Max. Max has a new book out. And so we're going to talk about his book. We're going to talk about making music. And I hope you enjoy this return to the podcast. And then send me your clips. What did you love about 2025? And also send me your suggestions on how to make this a financially neutral podcast, which is, there's hosting costs, there's editing costs. I don't pay my guests. I don't get paid. But yeah, if you want to sponsor a few episodes, let me know. If you just have ideas on what I could do differently, who do you want to see on the podcast? I'm taking your feedback. So with all that, I hope you got your COVID booster. I hope you got your flu shot. If you are eligible, your shingles vaccine, your RSV vaccines. But, wear your mask, get your boosters, wash your hands, and keep enjoying your favorite things.
Welcome to the Finding Favorites podcast, where we explore your favorite things without using an algorithm. Here's your host, Leah Jones.
Hello, and welcome to Finding Favorites. I'm your host, Leah Jones, and this is the podcast where we learn about people's favorite things and get recommendations without using an algorithm. I am joined today by writer and the founder of the Center for Courageous Wholeness, Max Klau. Max and I, we'll get into it, met each other pre-pandemic. Mm-hmm. I volunteered for an organization that he helped lead called Answering the Call. So I have volunteered with him over the years. I've mentioned that organization on the podcast before, but we are here today to celebrate his new book, Developing Servant Leaders at Scale, How to Do It and Why It Matters. Max, how are you doing today?
I am great. I'm very grateful. Thank you for having me here, Leah. It's great to see you again.
It's so good to see you. So we met, Jonathan Eisenberg introduced us because he could not answer the call to volunteer for Answer the Call that year.
The organization is the New Politics Leadership Academy.
Yes.
Actually been rebranded now as the New Politics Academy.
Okay.
And the program that we connected from was called Answering the Call. And you were a facilitator and still grateful for your lending your time and talent to that.
Yeah, it was such a great opportunity. That program was saying to people who had been either served in the military or Peace Corps, AmeriCorps, long-term, who had been called to service in some way or form, to help them determine, was running for office, how were they going to be involved in their local community next? How would they answer the call?
Yes.
And so it was a 5 or 6 week facilitated project. And I met with people. Mine were all on Zoom, even pre-pandemic.
Yeah. It's a big city. It was hard for people to get to someplace.
Yeah.
My memory is your first group was mostly military vets. And you're like, that is not my normal crew hanging out with a bunch of military vets. And then the second time you're like, I got this. That's my memory.
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. The first one was all vets.
Yep.
And I was just like, can I do this? And I did. And it was a great experience.
Yep.
I'll tell you what's fun now, and then I will actually let you speak, is we had elected officials who would visit our classes who had been through the program or who had at least through New Politics Academy.
Yeah.
And James Tallarico, who is now running for Senate in Texas.
It's a big deal right now. Yep.
Was one of my speakers. At the end of his class, at the end of our session, he gave us all his cell phone number, said, save it in your phone. When you run for office, I'll make the first donation. So I have texted him over the years. Like when I see him pop up in the news, I'm like, hi from Chicago.
Wow.
And when he just launched this campaign, like I got a phone call like from him and to say, what do I got to do to get your support?
Really?
And I was like, you've had my support.
Yeah.
It's been, I feel like my close personal friend.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great
Tallarico.
story. That's a great story. And he's just a remarkable soul. And it's amazing to see what he's doing. So that's awesome.
Yeah. So let's talk about the book, Developing Servant Leaders at Scale. It launched in the last couple months. So what's the on one foot?
Yeah.
Why would somebody read this book?
Yeah. Well, it's the story of my life's work, which has been about working at organizations that are always focused on servant leaders. So I spent 10 years at City Year, the AmeriCorps program, and then 7 years at New Politics, as you just said, trying to bring servant leaders into politics. And my focus was always, can we create an experience of inner development that is powerful, but also scalable? And it took years and years to figure out how to do that and to get past all the resistance and to figure out a way to create a space that's powerful. And I felt like it's time to just help people understand like what it took to get to this, why it's powerful and why it matters right now.
Mm-hmm. And how has the reception been?
It's really exciting. I mean, I got invited to the Kansas Leadership Center, which is an organization I've been hearing about for years, and they invited me to do a keynote. I'm actually, in 2 days, I'm flying to Stockholm for the Inner Development Goals Summit, which is this global movement that is thinking about bringing inner development to organizations trying to respond to crises. And I'm speaking from the main stage in front of 8,000 people.
Wow.
Bringing inner development to American politics. And I'm going to say that's good momentum for a book that came out 6 weeks ago or less than 6 weeks ago. So it's exciting.
Yeah. When you were putting pen to paper on this, what surprised you while you were writing the book? Either a story from your personal history that you were surprised bubbled up, something you remembered, or what surprised you during the process of writing it?
Well, the process of getting the book out into the world was crazy and has a lot of powerful lessons. So I kind of had this moment, I think it was probably 5 years ago, where I was like, I should write this book. There's valuable lessons here. I should write this book. So I started writing the book, and the first thing was to submit it to the publisher of my first book, who turned it down. So this wasn't going to be super easy.
Yeah.
And then I talked to an agent, and it was during the pandemic, and the agent said, "Oh, you have to like tweak this so it's a response to the Great Resignation, which happened during the pandemic," which was not honest. Like the book was not in any way like inspired by the Great Resignation, or So I did that. It was one of the first time where I'm like, I'm gonna try and tweak this to make it acceptable to the market. And then I worked with his agent, who sent it out to 30 publishers. They all said no, every single one of them. And he was like, "I've done all I can. I can't do anything for you." So then I was like, I tweaked it again to call it the Transformational Organization. I was like, let me see if I can make it for the business world. I actually got a book deal, but then I couldn't finish it. I couldn't write the last chapter because the truth was my whole experience was at nonprofits focused on servant leaders.
Right.
So I finally I'm going to write truly like absolute authenticity. This is what I know how to do. And it's developing servant leaders at scale. And then I got another book deal, and finally this thing is out in the world. And so it was such a lesson in like, first of all, being patient, because the universe has its own time for things.
Right.
And then I just have to be totally honest. I just have to be authentic and not pretend to, be anything I'm not. So it was quite a journey.
Yeah. So when you're thinking about, part of the publishing process is identifying the audience.
Yeah.
So who are the hands that you want to read this book, to hold this book while they read it?
The primary audience for me is senior leaders who are in a position to be thinking about how do we create an organization-wide leadership development capacity, because it's really written for those folks who can do that. And also, I know there's philanthropists out there who are trying to grow movements. Yeah. And this would be, if you have in a position to try and create a scalable development experience. But I know a lot of people who care a lot about leadership development and personal growth, and they've really appreciated it. So that's another audience for this stuff.
Yeah.
And I just think there are a lot of people who are really, really concerned about American democracy, and helpful to see that there's a very thoughtful approach to responding.
Yeah, I am coming to you live from war-torn
Chicago, occupied Chicago. Yeah.
Occupied Chicago. Yeah. It is, if I didn't use social media or read the news, I have a car, I could live in my little bubble and I could actually not know what's happening here.
Right.
And it is very scary.
Yeah, it is.
And I went to one of my favorite restaurants last night, and talked about how he's building out a second restaurant, but hasn't had anyone to work construction in 6 weeks. So like construction has stopped.
Yep.
People are losing childcare.
Yeah. Yeah.
Friends are disappearing. Neighborhood friends.
Yeah.
You know,
it's a nightmare.
It's a real nightmare.
Yeah. Dystopian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think we have, when I think about the groups that are forming in this in Chicago to help support the community, I can think of like, okay, long term, once we're out of this crisis, that this book is a way for the leaders of some of these community groups I think they're probably going to find a way to like make it more than a crisis. Like, how do you help a group last beyond the initial crisis?
Yeah.
And I think doing some of the inner leadership work, doing some of this, I always found answering the call, I was like, it's really weird that we're doing soul level work. We're coming together for 5 weeks to do this work at like a heart and soul level.
Yeah.
And it's about serving your community and serving your country. And it's not draped in flags or bullshit. Like I loved, it was such an important experience for me.
Great to hear.
And it kept my cynicism at bay.
Yes. My intention with it was, let's focus on the stuff that's important but not urgent.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so much to, the daily headlines and things to be, what's the tactical next move and how do we respond to this and what do we say about this tweet? And we just get lost. We get detached from the deeper work.
Yeah.
And as you know, a key piece for me is working with our light and shadow.
Yeah.
And recognizing we're all whole. And when I see the world, I see all of this unconfronted shadow, like the darkest parts of who we are empowered, and they're tearing apart our communities and destroying our democracy. And, the statistic I love to share from our evaluations is part of what we do at Answering the Call is we have people craft a mission statement and a shadow mission. And we do pre and post evaluation. And we ask, I'm clear about my mission. That number is like 77% pre and goes up to 96% post. So like a 12%. When we ask, I'm clear about my shadow mission, it goes from 33% to 96%. There's like a 63% jump in people who are like, I didn't even know I had this part of myself to work on.
Yeah.
And I just feel like if we're going to get past the symptoms and get to the deeper like causes of what's going on, this spiritual disconnection from our whole self is at the root of everything.
It is so powerful because the shadow mission, facilitating that with people and thinking about what happens when you don't bring your light to the world.
Yeah.
What is the opposite of your mission? And what could you do through negligence, through inaction?
Exactly. Ease, comfort.
And I think that is the people that live in Chicago and don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
Right. That is the ease and comfort and privilege of not having to know.
Yep. And, part of the power of the shadow missions is when you write it down and see how bleak it is.
Ugh.
Yeah. It's just like, and to realize we all show up that way sometimes.
Right.
And I just feel like I can't believe how few people understand it and thought about it.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm just like, this is the underlying issue that is generating so much. And there's a real opportunity to create a global conversation about this.
I'm so excited for you. I'm excited for the opportunities you have.
Thank you.
Because, what I got to learn from you with a group of 12 people in a blizzard in Boston.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you've already impacted so many people through City Year and the New Politics Academy that I'm excited for the people outside of those circles to get to access this learning from you.
Yeah. And it's one of the reasons why I wrote the book, where I'm just like, it's just time to get this work out there to as wide an audience as we can.
Yeah. And how can people either get a copy of the book to see if this makes sense for their org or bring you into to do public speaking or,
Yeah, sure.
How are people getting in touch and reading and working with you?
So my website is www.centerforcourageouswholeness.org. And, you can buy the book on Amazon or bookshop.org. you can easily find the book online. I also did an audio version, which was a really fun project. So if you prefer to listen to it, that's available for you too. And you can reach me on my website for speaking and consulting. And I'm very, the book is about how do you build an organizational capacity to hold people in this work. And I'm really excited to talk to any organization that's like that. That feels like a journey we want to take.
Great. And the Center for Courageous Wholeness is your consulting and coaching practice.
Correct. Yes.
Which you launched 2 years ago?
Well, I was doing my own consulting, and I've been in my process of like, really, what do I want to bring to the world? And I had a mentor, his name is Angel Acosta, who's a really brilliant guy, who was like, Max, you're doing servant leadership, you're doing shadow work, you're doing scale. These are all very different things. Like, what is the essence of what you are trying to bring to the world? And he really pushed me to think, and I realized everything I do is around courageous wholeness. So that's, so I started a center, and that's going to be the platform to bring this work out into the world.
Amazing. And do you have any public events coming up that people could join?
Yes, I have. So on a pretty much a monthly basis, I do a free Leading with Wholeness workshop, which is about doing your mission and your shadow.
Outstanding.
And I can, give you the link, and if you're able to post it in the show notes or something
Absolutely,
like that. But
will
that
do.
is, I, do that to give people a chance to get a taste of this for anybody who wants to understand a little more. I also just created, if you go to the Center for Courageous Wholeness website, you can take the Shadow Mission Challenge, and you should get a pop-up. There's also a message at the top of the page, but it's we'll briefly walk you through the process of crafting your mission and your shadow. And I'm just intrigued by, can we get 1 million people to do their shadow missions?
Yeah.
So if you just want a quick dose of this, take the Shadow Mission Challenge on my website.
Great. I will link to that.
Great.
And to your monthly workshop in the show notes.
Great. Thank you.
Well, Max, the book is what finally got us on to talk today. But as I told you just moments ago, the podcast Finding Favorites, I also talk to people about their favorite things. So what are we going to talk about this morning?
Well, I have a new album coming out. I'm a musician. I have a folk rock band, and I write the music, and I have a new album that's coming out, and it's just joy. It's just the writing the songs, the performing live, the recording, every part of it is just joyful and feels like absolutely an act of resistance right now.
Yeah.
And so that's what I would love to talk about.
Great. What is the name of the band?
It's the Max Klau Band, which is
the Max Klau Band. All right.
Not the most creative. I have to say Dave Matthews is my greatest musical influence. And that was a little bit of an inspiration for the totally uncreative name.
Yeah.
But it is, I did create the band. I was like, it's my music. This is not a democracy where we're going to co-write me. I'm like, I want to play my music, and all the musicians are down with it. And so it's really a fun project.
When did this band come to be?
A long time. I think it was like 2005. I was known as Max on sax growing up. I played saxophone and I played in a bunch of bands. And, in my 20s, I had these nights where I was like on stage at 1:30 in the morning in a loud bar playing a saxophone solo to Brown Eyed Girl or something. I was like, I'm done. I'm just done with this.
Yeah.
I'd picked up a guitar and was writing my own music. And it was actually at the end of grad school, like getting my doctorate, I was like, I have to start playing my own music.
Yeah.
So I was like 32 or something. This was not a childhood thing, but it was really fun. We got really into it, and we put out an album, and then I had kids, and it just stopped for 10 years. Basically, just stopped. But it's come roaring back now that my kids are teenagers.
Nice. And is it a rotating cast of bandmates? Over the course of 20 years, I imagine people might come and go, or is it a pretty steady group that you play with?
The violin player has been there absolutely from the beginning. Yeah. And I feel like the drummer has probably for most of that, for 15 years of that. But then it's a bunch of other dads in my town who, the new incarnation. But that group's been playing together now for probably 7 or 8 years, and really feels like, it's just so fun. And we're all dads. None of us want to do it full time.
Right.
It's regularly like, can we rehearse? And they're like, my kid has soccer practice. I'm coaching this. It's that kind of, but when we get together, it's just so fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I also played saxophone growing up.
Nice.
Yeah.
Alto,
tenor, and bari.
All right.
Yeah. I was in every band that was available to me in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I was also the drum major. I also played oboe. Like my
band geeks unite.
Band geeks. Yes. My original career path was I wanted to become like the first woman symphony conductor of whatever symphony hadn't had a woman conductor yet.
Okay. Love it.
Which is so many of them.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, music as a like it just wasn't my path.
It's pretty intense. Yeah. You really have to feel called to do that full time.
Yeah. But saxophone is so fun.
So fun.
When you switched from saxophone to guitar and to writing, had you taken any music theory classes? Were you just like guitar, keyboard, thinking of some lyrics? Like what is your music writing process?
Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're asking me about this. Such shame about it. I mean, I played saxophone for a long time. I took a lot of lessons. I never understood music theory. And I always think, if you play piano, it's so visual, like hear the chords and hear the, hear the intervals, and saxophone, you can't see it that way. And I feel like I just got very far just by playing by ear and just like, oh, this is roughly the key we're in. And so just a lot of playing music with very little real understanding of the theory behind it, But I think I picked up a guitar in college or something and would just strum. I never took a lesson, and just started strumming whatever, basic stuff. But over time I got better and better and started writing. I did all these service programs, and which was like, go to a kibbutz in the desert where there's no TV. And I just had so much time to sit and started writing tunes, and eventually I was like, I have an album worth of songs here that nobody has heard, and that in my head I can hear a band's instrumentation. So we got to start doing that.
I love it.
Yeah.
So you're doing the music and the lyrics.
Yeah, I mean, I come up with the bones, and then it's really fun to sit down with the band and we figure out the parts, and so there's a lot of collaboration to it.
Nice.
Yeah.
And do you play out? Or
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We are, I think, Leah, we might be the hottest folk rock band in Natick, Massachusetts at this point.
Amazing.
I think in our little sleepy suburb. It's nice. We now get, I used to have to like lobby to get to play at Natick Nights, or they have a concert on the Common Series in the summertime. And now we're like, they just reach out and say, hey, which slot do you want? Which is fun. We played the library fundraiser, which I didn't realize some part of my soul really wanted to play rock and roll in a library. It felt very transgressive.
Like in the lobby, like inside inside the library.
They turned the whole library into a mini golf thing. It was this very fun fundraiser thing. But anyway, we got to play, live music in the library at night. And that was kind of a fun gig.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, my brother-in-law's a bass player, and he joined a local cover band downstate, and gets to play out a couple times a month and has rehearsal every week, and it seems like an absolute blast for him.
Yeah. I mean, and especially these days, there's all these quotes, Jonathan Larson in Rent has this quote of the opposite of war isn't peace, it's creation. And Bill Stutz, for anybody who saw that documentary Stutz about Jonah Hill's
his therapist, his psychoanalyst.
And his thing is the opposite of evil is creativity.
Yeah.
And I've been so conscious of if I'm singing songs with the band, or if I'm thinking about, I'm not giving energy to this darkness. And I'm like, my life energy is focused on bringing art and creativity and beauty in the world. And I just spiritually, it is so powerful to be creating art right now. Like, and nobody knows us. We play in these little gigs with like, it's not about getting famous and known. It's just the act of doing that stuff.
Yeah.
It just feels so important right now.
I think there's a lot of power in that art and creativity doesn't have to be a side hustle, doesn't have to be like that fame
Yeah.
doesn't have to be the goal.
No, right. Like, it doesn't matter if a million people don't. I disagree with that completely. Like,
Yeah.
just, Beyonce sells a lot more records than I do.
Sure.
But the act of writing music, however many people hear you, is like a spiritual act.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody who tries to do that is like showing up in the world in a particular way. And all of us can do it. And anybody who hears it is, touched by this act of creativity, and which is not being cynical or afraid or all these things or hateful that are so easy to fall into, because there's so much of that darkness right now. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I had an author that was on that I have a lot of authors on the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And we had the same conversation that right now, whether it's cross stitch or painting or music, writing, how important it is to keep creating right now.
Yes. And I keep thinking we're in some kind of mini dark age.
Yeah.
And so the question becomes, how do we just create a little mini renaissance in our world? That's important work right now.
I agree. I think it is. I think it's I don't know how some days I'm like, I don't know how we pull the plane out of it.
Yeah.
And then, and then you have like a nice dinner with friends and you realize, okay, it's the pull of community, and that isolation is how we stay in it.
Right.
In 2019, I did a tour of Poland. And it was led by my friend Zohar Avignon, who over the last 2 years has been very active in the hostage family forum, because his sister-in-law and nephew were taken to Gaza and released in the first exchange after 50 days.
Yeah.
But he was a teacher and an activist, and he has stayed involved the whole time. He didn't say like, well, I got mine, I'm out.
Yeah.
But his trip to Poland, every place we stopped, he told us the stories of resistance, and we marched to the trains, and it was every place we stopped in Poland, there was a story of resistance.
Yeah.
Against the war, against the Holocaust, towards community. And that was so powerful, was that it wasn't all the shadows. It was, how did people find ways to resist even in the worst,
the darkest times,
the darkest days?
Yeah. And I think a lot about, I think Robin Sharma said, what you focus on grows. And the responsibility we all have to be intentional about where we're putting our energy. And and I hear you, like, there's always a struggle of just closing our ears and eyes and just like absolutely refusing to take in any of the reality.
Yeah.
And we can't do that, but we do get to choose how we're going to direct our energies in the midst of all this, and that stuff matters.
Yeah. So how is the album coming together? Do you record at home? Did you find a studio?
So, it's funny because there was a time, it was maybe 2 years ago, where I just felt so stuck. I was like, I have this book and it's not going anywhere. I have all these new songs and I can't make an album and nothing's happening.
Yeah.
And we played a gig, and this wonderful guy, his name is Joe Idzel. He's got his own recording studio called All Things Audio. He's like, you guys, your music is great. I want to record your album for free. And it's just been incredible. So he's got a little studio in his basement in Natick.
Yeah.
And it's been months and months. None of this is like urgent or fast, but we laid down a bunch of tracks and we've just been slowly refining it. And I have to say that the title track of the album is called Boston, New York Drive. And here's what I always say with this is there's so many good driving songs in rock and roll, but they're always driving far away from New England. They're always like leaving Las Vegas, or they're going to New Orleans, or driving to Memphis, or, going through Winslow, Arizona. I grew up in Hartford. I went to school in DC. I've lived in Boston for 25 years. My entire life is driving the Northeast Corridor.
Yeah.
The only lyric I know of that really speaks to that is one line in a James Taylor tune that is about taking a bus from Stockbridge to Boston. And I'm like, we need a good song about driving on the Mass Pike and Route 84. And so I have tried to rectify this grave injustice in the world by writing a song about the trip I've made 10,000 times in my life. So there's that.
That's great. And yeah, and it answers, it's going to fill a gap.
Exactly.
Because also, I got to say, you Boston people, there are cities that people like living there. People from Boston are obsessed with Boston.
It's home. It's home.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm really a lifelong New Englander. I grew up in Hartford and just feel so connected to this part of the world. And was like, how come there's just no songs on the radio about driving the drives that we do here all the time. And it's been fun to play live because I'm like, hey, who's done this? And like everybody drives the Mass Pike West, and then knows to get on 84 to get to New York. Like if you live here, this is deep in your soul.
Yeah.
So it's fun.
That's awesome. And how many tracks are on the album?
I think it's going to be 7.
Nice.
It's going to be 7. Yes. And it's a pretty eclectic mix. There's one that's, I went to this very mystical wedding in Israel and I wrote this very Middle Eastern tinged song. And each song really has its own kind of different vibe, which is exciting.
Early in my career, I was a social media coach for rabbis and rock stars.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I was out on my own. I'd been at Edelman is where my marketing career started. World's largest independent PR firm. And went out on my own and I started a social media coaching business in 2009 because I believed that I could teach you. Like, I thought I was going to work with authors, namely. I believed I could teach people how to use the tools and then they could handle their own social media. So I missed the curve on like, no, what you do if you want to make money in it is you do it for people.
Yes.
You do an agency.
Yeah.
But I was teaching people, I had a workbook and I taught people like how to use the concepts of how to be in a community online, whether it was Twitter or, like Twitter was 2 years old at the time, Facebook groups, Yahoo groups, right? Like really like what are all the tools available to us in 2009?
Yeah.
It was called Native Arts and Media. And it was for originally, I thought authors and artists and musicians.
Yeah.
And what I found was the musicians understand you pay for services because they're renting studio time, they're doing merch. Musicians understood, this is worth a $200 investment. The band sits down, we all learn how to do social media.
Yep.
And the tools I taught bands, like one band got signed by a major label, I Fight Dragons, and they built this huge online fandom. And people found their audiences and there was this very fun, nerdy, like music scene that I helped build because I helped them find their fans and we do a showcase. And it was a really like heady time. Like it was the best of Chicago Twitter and like kind of nerdy bands. And we just had a blast.
Love it. Love it.
And then I think, because I was involved in my synagogue and I had some online rabbi friends. And so I offered like a 6-week webinar on using social media in the Jewish community. And Phyllis Summers, who's a rabbi here, and Rebecca Shore, the two of them, I don't know, between the two of them, 30 people were in that first class.
Wow.
And so there are a lot of rabbis and cantors around this country that I taught how to use Twitter, like how I taught them like the rules of the road, like how can this be a part of your
amazing,
rabbinate. So it really, so I would speak at like Jewish conferences.
Wow.
And I would teach at Jewish conferences. And then I would also work with Martin Atkins, who was the drummer for Pigface.
Okay.
And he had a book called Tour Smart at the time to like teach bands the business of touring. And it included, and so he would do these like weekend retreats and bands would come in from all over the country and they'd go to his house and they would learn how to screen print their own merch, how to call a venue, like how to be nice on the phone, how to do your taxes. Like It was this boot camp for people that wanted to tour.
Yeah. And would you do your thing there? Were you part of it?
I would do my thing there.
Oh, I love it.
It was so fun. It was such a different time on the internet.
Yeah. It's fascinating because I think on the surface, we tend to think like clergy and rock stars are very far apart.
They are not.
But they're not. And I don't know, I lived in Jerusalem for a while. I can't tell you how many Orthodox Jews I met who were like, I was on tour with the Dead for like years and then found this. Like there's this kind of deep spiritual longing that sometimes expresses in being a super fan of music. And it's not so far to be a religious leader, So that's very cool.
Yeah, it was a really fun chapter of my career.
Mm-hmm.
And then I sort of realized, the business model was not actually teaching people to be self-sufficient.
Yeah, I get it.
Like that wasn't that. I think I did my taxes after that first year, and I had, like my taxable income was like $30,000, and I had a mortgage.
Yeah.
And at that point, I had a lot of credit card debt because I always paid my mortgage.
Yep.
And then everything else went on credit card.
I get it. Yep.
But yeah, it was a great time, and I still like my Facebook I have all these rabbis from all over the country and Jews from all over the world. That I've taught.
Yeah.
How to use these tools at a basic level years ago.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Has it completely changed? I mean, if you were to look at any of that, the content you were sharing, is any of it still relevant, or is it all?
I think the content about like authenticity, disclosure, I think the stuff about bringing yourself to your online community, I think that holds.
Yeah.
The tools change every year, right? The algorithm changes, the ways you can spend money to get your information out there. So I guess the strategy maybe is the same and the tasks would be different almost.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Because I'm certainly getting a lesson and trying to get a book out and how much is about LinkedIn and how to it's the game. It's the game.
Yeah. And TikTok
I'm too scared to go to TikTok. I feel like it would take over my life. And
yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's I only have it on my iPad. I've said this on the podcast before.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot be trusted to have it on my phone. I cannot give myself access to TikTok at all hours.
Yeah, I mean it's designed to hijack your attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also find it really, as I'm Gen X and as someone who grew up clicking the TV, it really scratches like flipping through the channels.
Yeah.
And just like you never find nothing's on, but you just sit there and flip the channels and watch MTV for a while, watch Comedy Channel for a while when it was just comedy clips. And so for me, it gets that. Like I'll sit in front of it for an hour, but there's nothing on. But
an hour's gone.
Don't walk away from it.
All right, that's what they do. That's what they do. Yep.
What are other bands? You mentioned Dave Matthews Band.
Yeah.
What are some of your other bands that either influence the Max Klau Band or that you love seeing live or putting on when you're driving from Boston to New York?
Yeah. I mean, I listen to a lot of real jazz on Sirius XM. I found I keep going there. I love the Bookshop Band. I played with this band called the Bookshop Band. They're not well known, but they are this incredible blend of like Jewish spirituality meets Pearl Jam, and I don't know, there's something about that sound that has been very influential to me. And then we do some what do we do? We do a Rolling Stone cover and a Bob Dylan and some classics. I don't like to do all covers of that stuff, but definitely there's some classic rock in there. But also like Sting, the stuff that walks the line between jazz and rock, and it's a little bit complex, but it also really catchy and gets you in the kishkas. I guess that stuff. And Bob Schneider, I'm a big fan of Bob Schneider.
Okay,
who's from Austin. So, yeah. I don't know. I hope that's a reasonable answer.
That is a reasonable answer.
Yeah. It's funny. I know a lot of people who are like, their whole thing is listening to different bands and being, I'm like, there's some stuff I like, but I really like writing and playing more than, sitting around listening to stuff all the time.
Yeah. in the last year or so pulled my CD collection. I moved it to my car.
In the black yes, which we all have. And
yes.
Yeah.
In the black zipper folder.
Exactly.
Because my car is my only CD player right now.
Yep. Yep.
But I can get I will be happy for 2 weeks listening to the same CD.
Yeah. Yeah.
Put it on repeat. I have this it's this independent radio station outside of New York.
They play good stuff?
Well, there's a musician that I know. He opened for They Might Be Giants on my college campus in 1998.
Wow. Okay. Nice.
And I had his album that he had released in 1998.
Okay.
And I listened to it for years.
Oh, CDs are all those little bands that you got in the little clubs. Yes. And
And then one day I was listening to it and I was like, I wonder what this guy's doing. And I found him on Twitter and we became Twitter mutuals. And then I started the podcast and I was like, well, I want to talk to this musician that I saw open for They Might Be Giants in 1998. Which is part of the fun thing about having a podcast is you can just why
not
say, hey.
Yeah.
And then in his role at that, he DJs at this radio station once a week.
Okay.
It's a radio station that doesn't have a format. So everybody that comes in gets to do different music.
That's what radio should be. Right.
And I will put all the proper links in the show notes.
Yeah, I would love to know. Yeah.
And every year for a fundraiser, he puts together an album of bands doing covers of songs from the 70s. So it's a wide variety of modern bands covering songs from the 70s.
Okay.
So he sent me a care package after he was on the podcast with his daughter's CDs, his new CDs, and 2 of these mixtapes of modern covers of 70s songs.
So fun. Yeah.
Benny and the Jets as a ballad, Bad to the Bone. And it was just for months. That is all I listened to in my car.
Love it.
It's so fun.
It is fun. I have a 14-year-old daughter, and we had the funniest moment where she found we had an old CD player in the basement. She's like, oh my God, Dad, this is awesome. And I went and grabbed those big black, CD cases. And she was like, oh, this is incredible. I'm like, you can literally just say, hey, Siri, play any song in the world. But she thought it was so cool, this ancient technology. So it's so old, it's back again.
Yeah, the young people that I work with were like, hey, do you have one of those little cameras that
My daughter has a little digital camera. The quality is crap, and she thinks it's amazing.
She's like, because they're really cool right now. And
totally.
I was like, okay. Yeah, I have 3. Of course I do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Funny.
Well, Max, this was wonderful.
So fun.
Your book, Developing Servant Leaders at Scale, How to Do It and Why It Matters, is available now. People in audiobook and written. People should get a hold of that. People should come and do your workshop.
Yep.
Where else can people find you online?
I mean, if you just Google me, Google Max Klau, Maxklau, and I now have a lot of videos talking about shadow and courageous wholeness and the work of the center. And it's pretty easy to find a bunch of other podcasts and video interviews and that sort of thing. So if you want to do a deep dive, it's easy to find.
Great. Well, thank you for spending a Friday morning with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Really fun to reconnect. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to Finding Favorites with Leah Jones. Please make sure to subscribe and drop us a 5-star review on iTunes. Now, go out and enjoy your favorite things.